Hey everyone, welcome back to the Spring Boot on Kubernetes series. So far we have learned how to package Spring Boot applications into containers, deploy them on Kubernetes, and exposing those applications using services, gateway API. We also learned how to integrate Redis and Kafka to that application. Now in this video we are going to focus on something that every production system eventually encounters, and that is the shutdown. So we will see what happens when a pod gets deleted or is being replaced by a new pod, or somebody initiated the shutdown sequence for your application. So when the application is shutting down, either because the pod is getting deleted or somebody terminated the application, then what happens to the in-flight requests? What happens to the requests that your application was already processing when the shutdown was initiated? Does the shutdown process wait for the application to finish all the in-flight requests? If yes, for how long? And if not, all or the requests are just dropped? So these are the questions which we will learn and answer in this video. Let's get started. So we will understand the shutdown process first that an application goes through. So let's say there is a pod getting deleted, and the reason could be maybe somebody killed the pod explicitly, or there is a new deployment, a new version is getting deployed. So what Kubernetes will do, it will simply replace the existing pod. So the old pod will be deleted and the new pod will be created. In any case, say the pod is getting deleted. So that is your first step when the pod is getting deleted. Now what happens? Each and every request goes through the API server. So each component in Kubernetes interacts with the API server. So when the pod is getting deleted, the information is sent to the API server and the pod is marked for the deletion. So the system knows that this particular pod will be deleted. Then this event is captured and observed by the kubelet, and this is the Kubernetes agent which is running on each node in Kubernetes cluster. So the kubelet on the node on which this pod is running will intercept the event and it will start the termination process for that pod. So it will invoke what is called the lifecycle hooks for that pod. Now in the lifecycle hook there is a step which is called preStop hook, and if that is configured for a deployment, then kubelet will simply call whatever logic you wrote in the preStop hook. And this preStop hook is written in the deployment.yaml or any YAML that you have where you have defined the Kubernetes resources. So just like we configure, let's say, the config map or startup probes, in the same way you can define preStop hook in your YAML file. So if you have given a preStop hook at this point when the pod is getting deleted, that hook will be invoked. Then after that, Kubernetes tells the Linux kernel or the container runtime that the SIGTERM signal must be sent out, and this is a termination signal. So at this point the Linux kernel will send the SIGTERM signal, which will go to the JVM that is running your Spring Boot application. Now we know that JVM supports shutdown hooks, and it provides the shutdown hook so that you can write some code that will be triggered when your application is going down. And these hooks are implemented by Spring Boot, so Spring Boot gets a chance to do something in the shutdown process. So when it comes to the Spring Boot, because it has implemented the shutdown hooks, so the code that Spring Boot has written to handle the shutdown will be invoked. Now from Spring Boot perspective, let's say if this is a web application, then we know in Spring Boot we have embedded web servers like Tomcat or Netty. So as part of the shutdown hook, Spring Boot will ask this Tomcat server or Netty server to stop, which will stop accepting new connections, because each pod is servicing some connections, some requests, and if the pod is getting down, we don't want to accept new requests and new connections. Then along with this, it also closes and destroys the application context, which has its own life cycle. So for example, if you have implemented any pre-destroy method, then they will be invoked. Then all the beans will be closed. If there are any executors, then they will be shut down, and similarly anything that is Spring managed like connection pools, they will be closed. So you can see that Spring itself has a life cycle for shutdown where it does so many things. Now after all these steps, JVM process finally exits, and then the container runtime detects that JVM process has exited, and then finally the pod is removed. So before a pod can be removed, either because it is getting deleted or being replaced by a new pod, the pod goes through all these cycles, especially for a Java application. So we can see that when a pod is getting deleted, the pod gets a chance, especially in this section, to do these shutdown related tasks and to handle any in-flight requests. Now let's say the pod was actually processing some in-flight requests, then what happens to those requests? Will the shutdown process wait for all the requests to be finished? If yes, then what happens if one of the requests gets stuck? Then will the shutdown process wait forever in order to close the pod, or is there a threshold after which the process will be killed? So this is something that we will now understand in the next section. Let's go a bit deeper now. So we start from the top again when the pod is getting deleted. Now when the pod is marked for the deletion, then there is this deletion timestamp that gets recorded. So let's say at time t1, the pod was marked for deletion. Now when kubelet starts the termination process, it checks if there is a preStop configured that we already covered. If yes, then it will execute the hook. If no, then it will simply send the SIGTERM signal, basically a request to Linux container that, hey, you need to send the SIGTERM signal for that particular JVM. So when that SIGTERM signal is passed on to your application using JVM shutdown hooks, then the first thing it checks is whether your application is using this particular property or not. Server.shutdown equals to graceful. Now by default, not all the applications implement graceful shutdown. So if you are using this property, then it will stop accepting new requests and it will follow the graceful shutdown process. But if your application is not using this property, it is not enabled for graceful termination, then your instance will be stopped immediately, JVM will exit, container runtime will detect that JVM process exits, and then the pod will be removed. But if your application is using server.shutdown property, then it will follow the graceful shutdown process. So in this process, it will stop accepting new requests and it will check whether there are any existing requests or not. If there are no existing requests, then it will continue with the shutdown process. But if there are some in-flight requests, then it will wait for the requests to finish. Now there is another property that is checked, which is timeout per shutdown phase. Let me explain what this timeout is. So as we covered earlier, when Spring Boot intercepts the shutdown hook, then it starts its own shutdown process, that is to stop the web server like Tomcat and closing the application context, calling the beans, shutting down the executors, so on and so forth. So you can see that Spring has different phases for its shutdown hook, for its shutdown lifecycle, and it executes each phase in order to have the shutdown process. So what would happen? Each phase takes some time. So for example, closing the connection would take some time. Similarly, stopping the web server could take some time. So the total time taken by Spring is basically this one, the addition of all the time spent on these phases. So what you can do, you can configure the timeout per phase, and that will be done using this property. So suppose you set this property to 5 milliseconds, for instance, then Spring Boot will, let's say when it is executing this particular phase like shutting down the executor, then it will wait for 5 milliseconds. If the executors are shut down within 5 milliseconds, then fine. If not, then it will simply reject this and continue with the next phase. So it will not wait on this particular phase more than the time configured. And that is the purpose of this property. So at this point, it checks whether this particular timeout has exceeded or not. So if you have set this timeout and that has exceeded for that particular phase, then it will continue with the shutdown as we discussed here. If not, then it will wait. And so after some time, Spring will finish its own destruction process. And then after that, let's say the Spring shutdown is complete, JVM process exits successfully, then the container will also exit and the pod will be removed. But for some reason, if JVM process of that instance is still running, then it checks this particular property, which is terminationGracePeriodSeconds. And this is like the upper time bound. Kubernetes will wait for this amount of time which is configured. It will wait for the Java application to be properly shut down. But if this timeout has expired and JVM process has not exited yet, then this time Linux will send a SIG-kill signal, and this will forcefully terminate the JVM. Because as compared to SIGTERM, SIG-kill simply kills the process. It does not wait for the process. Then the container will exit and the pod will be removed. But let's say if this time has not expired, then Kubernetes will wait. So you can see that if your Java application is taking a lot of time during shutdown process, then this is the time upper bound, and Kubernetes will not wait forever for your Java application to exit. Depending on the time which is set up here, the process will be immediately killed using SIG-kill signal. So when we started, we talked about the deletion timestamp, and let's say that time is T1, which is the start of this boundary, and anything that happens from here to there, it's all under the same timestamp, the same time boundary. So by default, if it is 30 seconds, if this time limit is 30 seconds, then Kubernetes from executing the preStop hook to pod removed will wait for only 30 seconds. So whether you are executing the preStop hook or JVM is executing the shutdown hook or Spring is closing the application context, everything comes under this time limit. And that is why a hung or the stuck request will not stop the pod's deletion or termination process. Because even if the request is stuck or hung after this time, When this is expired, Linux will send the kill signal that will forcefully terminate the JVM. So that is the overall shutdown process that an application goes through. It's not that the pod is removed immediately, but there are different phases that Kubernetes waits or directly executes. And then there are some stages which are handled by your Spring Boot or Java application. So depending on the scenario and use case, you can configure this property and this property for your Spring Boot application. So now that we understand the theory, let's do a quick demo. So for this demo, we have a very simple application. We can see that this is a main class. Then we have this hello controller which has two endpoints. The first one is very simple. It returns immediately. The second one is a slow endpoint. This is to simulate a slow request while shutting down the process. So you can see that in this method we are introducing an artificial delay of 25 seconds. Then we have the shutdown logger which has this pre-destroy method. So we know that when we shut the application down, then Spring will call this method as part of the shutdown process. So this is a very simple Spring Web application. As for the application properties, you can see that we have enabled both of them. Server.shutdown is graceful, and we have also configured the timeout per shutdown phase to be 30 seconds. So that means when Spring takes care of the shutdown process as part of the shutdown hook, then for each phase it can wait up to 30 seconds. Then to deploy this application on Kubernetes, we are creating a new namespace with this name. We also have a deployment.yaml where we are creating the deployment. For now, ignore these attributes because this is related to rolling updates that we will cover in the next lesson. So apart from the usual attributes, there is new one, which is this one, where we set the grace period in seconds for the termination process, and we are setting it here as 40 seconds. So you can see that per shutdown phase which we set here is well within the limits. So in this case, Kubernetes will wait for 40 seconds for the application to shut down properly. If it doesn't, then the process will be killed. And here we are providing the Docker image name, the container port because this is a web application, and we are also implementing this preStop hook. So as part of the preStop hook, we are introducing again an artificial sleep of 10 seconds. So we will deploy this application on Kubernetes, then we will call this slow endpoint, and in the meantime we will also kill a pod to shut down the process, and then we will see whether it waits for the request or not. So first of all, let's create the Docker image for this application so that we can release this application to Kubernetes. So to create the Docker image, we will run this docker build command. And here this is the image name and this is the tag latest, and we are giving the same image name here. So let's hit enter. So we have the Docker image created. Now we will deploy this application on Kubernetes. So we will go to the folder where we have the config files, and then we will run kubectl apply command. So first of all, we will create the namespace, then the deployment, and then in the end service. So let's see if the application has been deployed. We can check the pods and we can see that there are two pods, because we have set the replicas to be 2 here, and the 2 replicas are up and running. And if you notice that the service that we created is by default the cluster IP, so in order to access the application, we need to run the port forward command to map the port. So we will run the port forward command that will map the 8080 port, and now we can access the application. So in the new tab, we will access the application using curl, and if we call the hello endpoint, then we see this output. And if we call this slow endpoint, then we will see a little bit of latency and delay. So after a delay of 25 seconds, we see the output from the slow endpoint as well. So here's what we are going to do to simulate the graceful shutdown. As we already have the port forward running, so that means we can access the application. So what we will do, we will call this slow endpoint again. And we know that when we call this endpoint, it will sleep for 25 seconds. So there will be a delay of 25 seconds. Then in the meantime, in the second terminal, we will delete the pod. Now this particular command will delete all the pods, in this case 2 replicas. So this is like the complete application shutdown. Now when we delete the pod, in the third widget which is here, we will check the pods in real time. So what would happen when both the pods are killed? Kubernetes will spin up new pods, the replacement pods that we can see here in this window. And then in the end, in the fourth window, we will check the logs of this application. So ideally what should happen while this particular endpoint is sleeping, this simulates an in progress request. So in the meantime, if we delete the pod, if we shut down the application, then it should wait for this request to get completed. Now we know that 25 seconds is well within the grace period that we have set up, which is 40 seconds. So it will wait for this request to get completed. And when this request is completed, then this application would finally shut down. So we should see the logs from the shutdown logger that was given here, like this one. So that's what we are going to try. So first of all, we will run this command in the last terminal so that we can follow the logs. And then we will quickly hit the slow endpoint, we will delete the pod, and then we will see the pods in action. So you can see that while this request is sleeping, the pod has been killed, and you can see that Kubernetes is actually replacing new pods. And after some time, we can see it here in the logs that slow request started, and you can see that slow request completed. And there is another log from the shutdown logger that Graceful Shutdown complete. So we can see that Kubernetes actually waited for this request to get completed before it completely killed and replaced the pods. And that is because the time that it took is well within the grace period. Hence, it was waiting for the request to be completed and did not forcefully kill the pod or kill the application. But in case this request takes a lot of time, that is as compared to the termination grace period seconds, which is set to be 40 seconds, if it takes more than 40 seconds, the overall termination process, then we will see that it will not wait for the application to be finished. We will not see this log in that case. In that case, since it exceeded the threshold, the termination grace period threshold, so Kubernetes with the help of Linux will simply send the SIG kill signal and the JVM process will be forcefully killed. But in this case, the situation is a bit different because the time it takes is well within the limits. So it waited for the request to get completed, and that is the graceful shutdown of a Spring Boot application.